What if the phone you used every day knew more about you than you knew about yourself? What if it whispered truths you weren't ready to hear, only to leave you wondering, was it fate or something far darker? Paranormal stories are as old as time. For centuries, they've been whispered around campfires, written into ancient texts, and later broadcast on radio and TV. But in today's world, the internet has transformed these chilling tales into viral phenomena, reaching millions with stories that are as horrifying as they are impossible to explain. This story is one of them. It began on a warm evening in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in a quiet neighborhood park. Three friends lay sprawled on the grass, chatting and waiting for another friend to arrive. As laughter echoed under the fading sunlight, one of them noticed something unsettling: a woman standing inside a phone booth just a few meters away. She wasn't making a call, nor was she moving. She simply stood there, as if frozen in time, holding the receiver to her ear. The boy nudged his friends, pointing her out. "She's been standing there for half an hour," he said. His friends laughed it off. "Maybe she's waiting for someone," one said. "Or just on hold," joked another. But the boy couldn't shake his unease. Something about her stillness, the way her head tilted slightly to the side as if listening intently to something unseen, sent a chill down his spine. When the boys finally decided to investigate, the woman did something that would haunt their memories. As they approached, she slowly hung up the phone, lowered her head, and smiled. Not a polite smile, but something far darker, a grin so wide and unnatural that it seemed to stretch beyond the limits of her face. Her eyes didn't meet theirs but seemed to look straight through them, as if she could see something they couldn't. Worse still, the phone she had been holding wasn't even operational. The cord was frayed, the buttons worn, and dust had settled into its crevices. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. "Let's just go," one of them muttered. And when their missing friend finally arrived, they quickly left, the eerie encounter weighing heavily on their minds. But for the boy who first noticed her, the story didn't end there. The next day he returned to the park. He told himself it was because he needed to use the phone. Cell phones weren't as common back then, but deep down, he knew it was something else. The woman had left an impression he couldn't ignore. As he approached the booth, his heart sank. She was there again, standing in the same position, holding the receiver to her ear. He didn't approach her this time. Instead, he left, his mind racing with questions. Who was she? Why was she always there? And most importantly, what was she listening to? Determined to uncover the truth, he returned the following morning, armed with a notebook to record his observations. He sat on a bench near the booth and watched. An hour later, she arrived, as if on schedule. She inserted a single coin, picked up the phone, and stood there, silent. This time, he noticed something new. After exactly an hour, she smiled that same sinister smile before leaving. The boy ran to the booth, his curiosity overpowering his fear. He stepped inside, heart pounding, and picked up the receiver. The phone was cold, lifeless. Still, he inserted a coin just as she had. For an hour, nothing happened. But just as he was about to give up, a deep, gravelly voice whispered through the receiver, "Pardis." The word sent a jolt through him. A few days earlier, he had applied for a job at a restaurant called Pardis Chicken. That evening, the restaurant called to offer him the job. Coincidence? He wasn't sure. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the phone had somehow known. Over the following days, the boy became obsessed. Each time he visited the booth, the voice whispered cryptic but strangely accurate messages. One day, it said, "In the yard." When he returned home, he found a folded bill lying in his backyard. Another time, it said, "Wait," just before he narrowly avoided a traffic accident by lingering at the park a little longer than usual. But with each visit, the phone's power seemed to grow darker. The woman, once passive and distant, began to notice him. One evening, as he stood inside the booth, he saw her watching him from across the park. Her arms were covered in fresh cuts, blood trickling down to her hands. In one hand, she held a pair of scissors, their blades glinting ominously in the fading light. She screamed at him to stop using the phone, her voice filled with rage and desperation. Terrified but addicted to the phone's mysterious power, the boy ignored her. Days turned into weeks, and the woman's warnings became more frequent. She began appearing closer, sometimes standing just a few feet away, her eyes fixed on him. One night, she chased him through the park, her bloodied scissors clutched tightly in her hand. He managed to escape, but he knew he couldn't keep running forever. Desperate for answers, he turned to the phone one last time. After inserting a coin, he whispered into the receiver, "How do I stop her?" For an hour, there was nothing but silence. Then, as the timer neared its end, the voice spoke, "Behind you." The boy froze. Slowly, he turned, expecting to see the woman. But there was no one there. Relieved yet shaken, he left the park and vowed never to return. Years later, the boy, now a man, reflected on the experience. The phone had given him answers, yes, but it had also consumed him, leaving him haunted by questions he could never truly answer. Who was the woman? What was the phone's true purpose? And most hauntingly, what would have happened if he had stayed? As for the park, locals say the woman still appears in the phone booth, smiling her sinister smile. Some claim the phone still works, but only for those brave or foolish enough to use it.